Welcome back to American Agenda. I'm Bob Sellers here with Heather Childers. We are following some breaking news. Federal agents raiding the home of former President Trump's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani in New York, and now in the Washington area, the home of Victoria Tensing, the wife and partner, by the way, of Joe DeGeneva. Joining us now to discuss, distinguished university professor at Touro College and authored the book Saving Free Speech, Thane Rosenbaum. Thane, what's your take on what's going on here?
Well, you know, this is an extension of the second Senate impeachment trial of Donald Trump. This involves the role that Rudy Giuliani played as Donald Trump's personal attorney, who may have also been an unregistered federal agent, a lobbyist, on behalf of the government of Ukraine, lobbying the federal government. So what role did Rudy Giuliani play in Ukraine? Was he the private attorney of the president trying to get a foreign president to conduct investigations into Hunter Biden? Did he have a different capacity in which he was there? That was the source of the second impeachment trial. And it's clear that the FBI had put that away, but clearly now it has a renewed priority during the Biden administration, and they're revisiting the role that Giuliani played in two things. Also, was he responsible for helping to fire the U.S. ambassador to the Ukraine, right? So the question is whether President Trump, with his private attorney, were engaged in illegal foreign policy. Remember, there was the potential withholding of foreign aid to Ukraine unless and until they agreed to conduct investigations into the Bidens.
And we should say that Giuliani's lawyer, Robert Castillo, has said that the search amounted to legal thuggery, and that Rudy Giuliani had actually offered to answer questions and was, doing what they had asked him to do.
And Heather, it's important to remember, if he's there as the president of the United States personal attorney, his correspondence with the president are privileged. So when they refer to thuggery, right, they're saying, you know, you're coming in to look at computer files and email correspondence that Giuliani had conducted with the president of the United States, functioning as his private attorney. And those are privileged communications. And it's not clear whether they would have ever been entitled to this information. If they were entitled at all, it's only if they discover, which I don't know how they would discover, that Giuliani's role was entirely as an unregistered foreign lobbyist. And I don't know how they would know that.
But in real life, how does it work, Thane? In real life, they can go in, get a bunch of information, figure out what legally they can have and what they can't, but along the way, they learn everything they want.
That's true, Bob. But again, you know, warrants, when it comes to the founding fathers, unreasonable illegal searches and seizures without court orders or warrants violate the Fourth Amendment. So they're supposed to be narrowly tailored, right? You're not allowed to really sort of go through a complete fishing expedition unless the court order allows that. And I haven't seen the court order, so I don't know how extensive it is. But what I am saying is precisely because he was functioning as the private attorney of the United States president, it introduces very different attorney-client privileges that would ordinarily be much more circumspect than what that might have taken place here.
Thane, can you stand by? We're going to take a little break here and come back the next hour, continue the conversation. This is interesting. Some breaking news going on right now. The DOJ, very active today. We'll be back with more of American Agenda after this.
Closed captioning.
Welcome to the third hour of American Agenda. I'm Bob Sellers.
And I'm Heather Childers, and we are joined, as always, by our family of co-hosts, former Gunnery Sergeant for the U.S. Marine Corps and former Advisory Board member for Women for Trump, Jessie Jane Duff, and principal of the Vogel Group and former Trump White House Cabinet Secretary Bill McGinley, and Republican strategist and author of Laws and Sausage, Brian Trasher, and university professor at Touro College, Thane Rosenbaum. joins us again.
Yeah, and let's bring Thane in. We've already gone over some of the basics. Hopefully our panel was paying attention because there will be a test later. But we're talking about what they have a right to do. I was curious, Thane, any observations you have just to bring people up to date? Federal agents have been raiding the home of former President Trump's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani in New York, and now in the Washington area, the home of Victoria Tensing. Rudy Giuliani's lawyer has called this legal thuggery. So, Thane, as you're observing this, again, don't want to go over all the basics we already covered, but what else do you add to the conversation here that you see going on?
Well, this is what I would say if I was the Giuliani's lawyer. I would say, my client is not a organized crime member. He's not a gang member. He used to work in the Justice Department. He was the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. He was the mayor of New York City, and he was a private attorney to the President of the United States. Why would you conduct this kind of a raid? It's clearly to embarrass my client and to treat him like a thug. And let us not forget, my client is not a thug, despite that you might not like him. This is a man of great distinction that served this country in many different capacities, and you are treating him like a member of the mafia. And I think that's a separate argument to be made. This kind of drama doesn't normally take place with the president's private attorney, who was once the mayor of New York, who was once the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and was once a Justice Department official.
Thane, I want to ask you, in terms of the legal perspective, the timing of this, because the investigation of Rudy Giuliani had been paused during the election. In fact, I think they did try to seek a warrant right before the election, but they didn't do it because of that, or it wasn't given to them. Actually, let's go to this shot right now and listen. Let's take this.
All Americans out there, our Justice Department should be independent of politics. Enough is enough, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot stand for this anymore. And again, if this can happen to the president's lawyer, this can happen to any one of us. Thank you. I'll refer to my father's lawyer for further questions and statements. You guys have a nice day. Can we hear from your dad?
All right, Andrew Giuliani speaking there live outside of his dad's apartment in Manhattan. You know, Thane, that goes to what I was speaking of. Do you think this is purely political?
Well, it certainly looks like it, Heather, right? I mean, it was put on pause. Remember, you know, the Democrats went into the second impeachment knowing they couldn't win, right? They knew that they would not get a conviction. And remember, they conducted the actual impeachment hearing within a week's time. They were rushing this because they wanted to embarrass Donald Trump. But in the end, they really didn't get what they wanted. And I think that this is clearly another opportunity to extend the Ukrainian investigation and to, again, create another dark cloud around the Trump administration, and to once again look at Giuliani as a Machiavellian player behind illegal foreign policy conducted to embarrass Hunter Biden and his father, who at the time was merely a candidate for the presidency.
You know, I'm going to just throw this out there. Andrew Giuliani is perhaps on the verge of announcing that he wants to run for governor, and how convenient to taint the reputation of the Giuliani name at this time. Again, I don't know that that has anything to do with this, but let's open it up to our panel. And Jesse Jane, I'll leave it to you. You can either ask a question of Thane or make a comment, whatever you'd like.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that this is what dictators do to their opponents. And keep in mind, President Trump had great restraint on going after the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton for all of these scandals that were surrounding her, funding that dossier that caused his entire campaign to go under wiretap. And yet we never saw him aggressively go after her, because many people believed that if he were to try to go after her for any type of conviction, it would look like a dictatorship, and we don't destroy our political opponents. So on its face, regardless of what the charges may be, to do a raid and to have this be so dramatic, much as like what they did with Roger Stone, leads you to believe that this is purely political. It's designed to degrade the reputation of President Trump. As he has always said, they're not after me, they're after you. And if they can destroy his reputation, knowing that he is in the shadows of the Biden administration, watching every move that they make, this is purely going to come off to all of those that voted for President Trump as a political maneuver by Joe Biden and his administration. And now we have weaponized the DOJ, which is horrific in what most Americans are going to feel or believe.
Yeah, let's bring in Rob Schmitt now, the host of Rob Schmitt Tonight. What are your thoughts on as this unfolds? Not only Rudy Giuliani's home here in Manhattan, but we also have Victoria Tensing, a lawyer close with Giuliani in Washington.